trying to think of like a general theme of this show. I don't really know what it is. I mean, I guess it's just I'm me. It's about me, I suppose. You guys know I like getting a little bit deeper into some things. There's some content I watched over the last week that really moved me in a way that I haven't been moved before. Not before, but in a way that I thought was. Sorry, this mic is a little off. It was about happiness, and I think I was talking to Jay about it yesterday or maybe it was Tuesday. All the days kind of blend together. But I've been sending it to pretty much everybody I know, so I will link it in some capacity, or I'll just tell you what it is. So for those that want to, it's Florida Stanley making that money. Hopefully, Bubba hears all the honking and the hollering, and he's excited to hear that the show actually makes some money. So I appreciate you guys. See what I'm talking about? Sorry, I don't know how Bubba does it, but it seems to stay in place for him. Okay. Yeah, so there's a few things I want to talk about, but this is definitely going to focus and center around happiness because I watched a podcast. Well, it was like a 2-hour podcast, so it took me a few days to get through because, you listen to 20 minutes here, 30 minutes here, 50 minutes here, and I walked away from it like, holy shit, that was some really useful-ass information. Oh, JHM! 3, I have an astigmatism, 1999. Whoop, whoop. It was a podcast. For those that don't know, stand by. I'm a huge fan, a groupie, if you will, of Dr. Peter Attia. I talk about that motherfucker all the time. I think about him all the time. I'm like, what would he recommend? I trust him in so many ways that when he suggests that you do something, I really take it into heavy consideration. And for those that don't know, the Dr. Peter Attia that I'm referring to, he's an MD and he was a general surgeon. Like, the motherfucker is crazy. Like, he was a surgeon. He was a general practitioner. He was a long-distance swimmer. Like, this motherfucker was swimming from island to island in Hawaii, okay? So he'd, land in Oahu and then swim to Kauai. Like, this motherfucker is crazy. And he has a podcast called The Drive, and I listen to it often. And he had a guest by the name of Dr. Arthur Brooks, who is a PhD from Harvard, and they just discussed happiness. And at first I was like, is this going to be kind of like, like lame? Is this going to be like tell yourself that you're pretty in the mirror sort of thing? And it wasn't any of that at all. And we're certainly going to get into that, but we do have to make a few announcements. Oh, Brian from Philly, what's up? That's another $20. You hear that, Bubba? We're making money. Yes. So a few announcements tonight. We have Bubba 199. I don't know if it was ever resolved or what the conclusion was on Pedro the pool guy. Happy birthday, by the way. Pedro the pool guy. If you're listening, you're probably not. But Pedro the pool guy, his birthday is today. And a few days ago, he asked Bubba if he could attend Bubba 199. The last Bubba 199 of the year. The next one after this one will be Barp Weekend. I believe it will be Friday, January 12th. If my date math is correct, which I know that it is. So make sure you tune in tonight. I believe we're going to be on the Rumbles and Twitch. I think that's what we do. I don't know if we're on all of the platforms that I think we're on Rumble and Twitch, but don't quote me. I'm pretty sure that's what's going on. But that's going to be from 8 to 10 p.m. tonight. So make sure you tune in for that. It's going to be a good time. It's always a good time. The ladies are looking sexy, minus me usually. I don't know. I feel weird. I feel weird dressing in any sort of sexual way. I feel like I look off, like weird. Now that even just like a few months ago, I felt like it was, it wasn't like out of the ordinary for me to dress up once in a while. But now it's like weird. Now it's just like I like to be comfortable all the time. Whenever I look at clothes, all the clothes I got over Black Friday, I usually don't treat myself. I'm not like a treat myself kind of gal, mostly because the financials. But everything I got was related to me being in a gym. I just love the gym so much. And it's weird. Like I just don't really get sick of it. I just really don't. It was initially for me the gym. I started working out when I was like 12 years old. Okay. All these people who talk about, oh man, when I was a kid, my metabolism, yeah, I don't know what that experience was like because I was a chubby kid. I was a little chunker. Not too bad, but it was like the baby weight never quite fell off. And usually that falls off by the time you're a toddler. But here I was pushing 12, 13, and I was still like a little bit of a chunky monkey. And my father had a conversation with my mom, and it went a little something like this. I'm not having a fat kid. Because it looked like it was going in one direction. And usually, and not like the band, but usually what happens is if you're like kind of a chubby kid, and then that chubby... Macho's here to fix the mic, I presume. All right, we'll just play some music. That's cool with me. Oh, shit. Should I turn off the mic? Just always here solving problems. That scared the shit out of me. He apparently did ring the bell. I didn't hear it. John Costica, $49.99. Are you gonna be okay if I home? Oh my god, that's fucking loud. Thank you so much. Wow. Showered with gifts, and we're gonna get to those. Trust me. They're staring at me right now. It's begging me. What's up, the fat pig? I love your name. Makes me laugh every time I see it. Okay, thumbs up. We're ready to go. Thank you so much, Macho. Sorry I screamed. I'm very skittish. Like a baby horse. All right, back to the program. So sorry. Thank you, Macho. He saw me struggling. He doesn't like problems just lingering, and I appreciate that he is on it. Yes. Let's take a call. Hello, who's this?
Hey, this is Jim.
What's up, Jim?
I have a question about your intermittent fasting.
Yeah, go for it.
If you're doing the intermittent fasting and you drink a protein shake, does that screw you up for the day?
Well, that would certainly.
But in that 18 hours, you drink that protein shake. Does that hurt?
Well, I mean, then it's technically not a fast anymore. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was curious about.
Yeah, so, and again, it depends on what kind of fast you're following. Some people do just like they consider anything except water breaking the fast. For me, anything that's not water, tea, or coffee, again, black coffee and just plain tea, anything beyond, if you consume any calories, right, then I feel like you've broken your fast. At least that's how I consider it. Because the whole point of the fast, obviously, you want to obviously not eat, but also try to level your hormones. And the main hormone that you're looking to kind of control, mitigate, is insulin, of course. And if you have any carbohydrates or any proteins, that's going to raise your insulin levels. So if you do need something in the morning, if you don't want to, say you usually have your first meal around noon or 1 p.m. or something like that, and you need a little something to get you through to that time, they being the experts, not me, I'm just learning from the experts, they suggest you have something that is just fat. Just fat. So MCT oil, that was pushed a lot by, I know we watched Dave Asprey a few days ago, but bulletproof coffee. So something that's high in fat that's not going to raise your insulin levels dramatically. You want to kind of keep those steady because insulin sensitivity is the name of the game. You want to make sure that you're trying to avoid insulin insensitivity, which is what happens when you get diabetes, or at least diabetes type 2. Type 2.
Right.
Type 1 is the respectable type of diabetes. Type 2, not so much. You know, that type 2's got a bad rap. And you don't necessarily have to be an enormous person to get type 2. Actually, it's usually worse if you're a thin person with type 2 diabetes, because that means that the subcutaneous fat that you have, which maybe isn't that much, is the overspill of subcutaneous fat ends up in the gut, not in the gut, in the visceral area, in your midsection. So that belly fat that they always talk about, that's usually the most harmful, because that's attaching to your liver and your pancreas and your organs and and your gut. So you really don't want that fat. Subcutaneous fat is pretty harmless, actually. But what happens is obesity is usually an indication that there's an overspill of fat, and that adipose tissue's got to go somewhere because your cells are fucking full. So then fat starts to congregate around your organs, and that's usually the stuff that gets people in trouble. So, anyways, that was probably a long-winded answer. Yeah, I would break your fast, buddy. I'm so sorry, Jim. Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. That was the answer I was looking for.
Okay, great. Yeah, great.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Hannah.
Yeah, no problem. So yes, big fan of all things longevity. That has interested me for the past probably 2 years or so. You know, I'm sure, like I was saying, I started working out when I was 12 years old. I started running to maintain my body when I was 11. Okay, most people probably don't become really aware of their body and like what it looks like. I would say probably about puberty, so maybe it was about right. But I started like counting calories or being aware of calories probably around 11 or 12. Like it was always, I don't really remember much before that time where it was just like a fucking free for all, you know? A few memories, but for the most part, it was like, okay, I need to kind of like watch out. And that was the beginning of the start of my diet brain, which has never turned off, by the way. Never. Every day I'm just like, I shouldn't eat that. I shouldn't eat that. I should probably stop. I should probably not eat that. But so it's and not that I'm really working hard that much to try to unravel that thinking. It's not the healthiest way to think, and certainly probably doesn't lead to a very fulfilling life oftentimes when you're just stressing about food. But it's just this thing that turned on and has been disciplined so well and for so many years that it's really, really, really fucking hard for me to turn it off. Every once in a while, when I've been really good for a couple weeks and I go a little crazy or, eat whatever the fuck I want to eat, then I kind of relax about it. And it's gotten a little bit better since I've gotten older, but honestly, like, not much. So, yes, Peter Attia, longevity. And that is why the great Leslie and Chuck, God bless them. I feel guilty when people give me so many nice things and they're like too nice to me. I feel undeserving of it all, but I certainly appreciate it. Anything that is UCSB related, I feel like much like Bubba has an affinity and fondness of Warsaw, Indiana, I really don't for my hometown, not in that way. And I don't know why. I grew up in an awesome town in North County, San Diego. But it just, I don't know why. And I have a theory, and it's probably not a nice one, but I think it might be somewhat correct. And feel free to call in if you agree with me, or maybe you can relate. 813-90-BUBBA. I think that there is an inverse relationship between how much pride you have from where you're from and how cool that place is. So, for example, if you're from a shittier town, a shittier place that is not a destination or what do they call it? A travel destination, right? Let's just use, I hate using this example, and we kind of all know where this is drawing from, but let's use Cleveland, Ohio, okay? No one thinks, oh, I'm going to spring break in Cleveland, Ohio. Oh, I'm going to have my bachelorette party in Cleveland, Ohio. Oh, I'm going to go, whatever, summer break in Cleveland, Ohio. That's usually not a vacation destination. And when you are from places like Cleveland, like Detroit, like Podunk, Indiana, it seems like there is a massive amount of pride from where you're from and a fondness of where you are from. And when you're from a really cool place, like, I don't know, San Diego, you just don't have that. There's a sense of like, yeah, it's awesome. Like, you don't feel the need to defend because you tell people you're from San Diego 10 out of 10 times, you know, if you're not in San Diego, obviously, but 10 out of 10 times, they're going to be like, I fucking love San Diego, or I've always wanted to go there, or I've heard great things about that city. Like, it's never met with like a, ugh. Like, California's been getting a bad rap the last few years, so we can kind of negate that. But that's not because it's not a cool place to live, you know, in terms of like the geographically, the climate is awesome, weather is fantastic, the people are beautiful. Not as hot as in Miami, but pretty close. But yeah, it's an awesome place to live and grow up and raise a family and all those things. So I never felt the need to really defend it. And when I think about my childhood, I feel like it was pretty much as perfect as a childhood as one could have. You know, I mean, nothing is obviously perfect or without problems, but there was really no major hiccups. I never really got sick or ill, or, you know, I was perfectly placed in the social hierarchy of school where I wasn't uncool and I wasn't popular or cool. I was just flying right under the radar, stealth mode. You know what I mean? So I wasn't hot, wasn't cool, wasn't popular. So that means I wasn't having sex, wasn't doing drugs, wasn't hanging out with boys, wasn't skipping school. So my parents didn't have to worry about that. And then I also wasn't harassed at school at all because I wasn't a loser. I still had friends. So I wasn't like thrown into lockers, given swirlies or nookies or whatever the fuck. Like, I was never, you know, people would say things occasionally here and there, but that's just whatever. That's being a kid. But I just was right under the fucking radar. And that is, I honestly think, the best place to be. There's no expectations in terms of, you know, no one is expecting you to be cool or cares what you wear. No one's even, I was kind of invisible, I would say, for a lot of that time, which I think is almost a good thing. Mike Thurman, 1999. Give it up for SoCal. That's what's up. But yeah, there's not a lot of, I don't want to say that there's not a lot of regional pride, but there just really wasn't. I don't know. Maybe I missed out. It also probably didn't help that, like, my parents weren't from that area. Like, my mom was from LA. And my dad is South African. So in terms of like sports teams, it's not like my dad was like a Chargers fan or he really loved the Padres. So there wasn't any of that also. I feel like that also tethers you to the city of your city of origin or whatever, you know, like, you know, my old roommate Rachel really loved the Browns and the fucking, can I even say the Indians? I think that's the team, right? So you get, or like in Detroit, you know, better example, the Lions. People go crazy for the Lions, for the Tigers, for the Red Wings. Oh my God! In San Diego, everybody's a transplant. It's kind of like here. You'd be hard pressed to find someone who is from Tampa. To be honest with you, it's almost like a red flag. I'm like, you're from here? Like, you've lived here your whole, like, your parents are from here? Like, ugh, like you're a second generation Floridian? I don't know if that's safe. You know, everybody is a transplant. It seems, well, I guess Lummy is from here, but his parents weren't. Whatever. Anyways. So, yes. Let's open some presents. I feel like I don't know if you guys like presents as much as me. Or the watching people open presents. It's really the element of surprise. You know, this is a sad song. That's fine. All right. Present time. I got a few more left. We'll do these quickly. Thank you. Fucking Leslie. Oh, my word. Ah! Oh, my God. It's a cropped hoodie. Amazing. UCSB, go Gauchos. I really can't tell. Like, this means so much to me. I have so many fond memories. Oh, that's where I was going with that. Fond memories of UCSB. Oh, freak yeah. Oh, nice. We got some fresh, oh, is this a tea bag? A tea infuser. I am not fancy. I don't even know what the fuck that means. This is incredible. I think this is some tea here. Oh my god. Is this weed? Honeybee ginger elixir white tea. Amazing. This is, I mean, I'm pretty trash ass when it comes to the tea, like, that I get. I get the, you know, the chamomile. It's like, you know what I'm talking about? They're not even individually wrapped. Like, you have to, like, they're perforated. You have to, like, tear the middle, and it's 2 bags. You know what I'm talking about? It's just one giant white bag of tea bags. That's usually where I'm coming from the tea side of things. Wow, thank you so much. Oh, my God. Oh, shit, there's more. I feel very undeserving right now. Chamomile what did I just say? I fucking love chamomile tea. Look at that. Phenomenal. Wow, that is, again, feeling very undeserving. Okay. More left. Is this bad radio? Is this bad podcasting? It's okay. God. What the fuck? Whoa. Boathouse. Oh, Cape Coral. What up? I'm coming to visit you guys in Cape Coral. This is phenomenal. It's like one of those, even smells like her, like wicked material. I think that's what you call it. Like dry fit, maybe. A little tank top action going on. Play, motherfucker. Play. Amazing. Oh my God. Very cute. Thank you so much. All right. Get the big ones now. This is crazy. This is making up for all the years I never got presents because I'm a Jew. I'm a Jew. Oh my God. I don't. Hold on. There we go. One. Holy shit. Oh God. What is it? Is it in here? Oh. Oh shit. Oh my God. Purple Rain. Prince record. Insane in the membrane. That is fucking awesome. That is so fucking cool. Look at that. Everyone knows I love Prince. And I've said this before, like, there's very few artists I like from the 80s, and Prince is one of them. Right. Make sure I got it all. Basically just Billy Joel, Michael Jackson, and Prince. The rest of the 80s were trash. Come fight me. All right, last one. Oh my God. Is this an AR-15? You guys know me too well. Holy shit! No way! No way! What the? They got me a ukulele. What the hell? Oh my God. My dad plays the ukulele. I don't know if I told you this. That is insane. What the? Please play the next song. This is crazy. Oh my God. Oh, shit. What? Oh, frick yeah, I'm learning. I'm learning it. I'd be like that giant Hawaiian guy, Israel Kakamakaha. That is fucking awesome. Look at that. Look at the engraving on that. Insane. In the membrane. And I believe this is, oh my God, you got a little guitar strap going on with some with a pick. Oh my God. And some strings. Oh my goodness. A clip tuner. Well, looks like I will be learning the ukulele. Ooh. I don't know what this is. There's beads. Oh, is it like a little instrument perhaps? Holy shit. I've never experienced a Christmas quite like this before. Oh my God, Chuck Leslie. I feel like you spent too much money. I don't know what to tell you. This is crazy. Insane. I can't believe I have a ukulele now. That is I'm gonna learn a song over the winter break. So expect me to come back full-blown musician. Thank you so much. I don't even know what to say. Like, oh, and another pick. Amazing. Beautiful. My dad's gonna be very jealous because my dad, much the boomer that he is taking up ukulele classes that he takes. I think it's like once a month, or it's like a ukulele group, I guess. Yeah. My dad's been playing guitar for as long as I can remember. Forcing us to listen to it. I believe over the holiday break, my dad recorded a album of himself doing covers of famous songs, and then just gave it to everybody in the family. Maybe that's why my parents got divorced. Okay, hello, who's this?
Out of Hummel, Joe the supermarket.
What's up, Joe? I will clean all this up, by the way.
I'm so excited living vicariously through you and your Pack Ridge opening. Oh,
yes.
My God. It was
Isn't
so
that
good this
exciting,
morning.
right?
Oh, it's beyond exciting. I'll go for you all. I can't do it as good as you, though.
Oh, my God. So, I have a whole new wardrobe now. This is fucking crazy. Sorry.
I just got a Pack Ridge this morning, too. I was pretty excited. I got some Hulk Hogan gizummies.
Oh, nice. That's good. Is he slinging the mushrooms, or is he slinging the THC?
He's proud of his kratom first, or kratom, however they want to say it. So he's got two different kinds of kratom. I ain't touching that. I don't want to know nothing about it.
Yeah.
And then he's got the HHC gummies and the THC gummies. The THCs, that's the watermelon ones. The HHCs are the peach. I don't know what HHC is.
I don't know what HHC is either. I know there's CBD, THC, and then there's like some other shit. Oh my God! Oh, bye. Florida Stanley, $100 on the snipe. So sorry, but I have to respect the dollar. I have to respect the snipe. He said, "Nope, not in the mood, Joe." So so sorry about that, Joe. I feel bad because I feel like Joe has no one, and his family is the show, and he is isolated in a nursing home or bedbound and can't walk, and he calls in just to get a little taste of human interaction, and then he's immediately sniped by everyone in the chat. It's really just like who's going to pull the trigger first, whether it be a Brian from Philly, whether it be a Florida Stanley, whether it be a Mike Thurman, whether it be a John Kostika, although I think John Kostika just likes to give money. I don't think he likes to snipe people, but that's okay. But we must respect the dollar. We must respect the dollar. And I believe Quackenbush, my eyes are getting better. Quackenbush, $9.99. Appreciate you. Wow, we're really bringing in the doll hairs, and I appreciate that. But don't spend too much here on me right now, because you got to save yourself for tonight, the final Bubba 199 of 2023, and what a year it's been. This is usually a time for reflection, right? The holidays are approaching. You start having, you remember this time last year, and you're like, wow. You say the same shit. wow, I can't believe it's been a year. Can you believe it's been a year? I can't believe it's been a year. And that's just kind of a conversation that you have every fucking year. And then the next year comes and you go, I can't believe it's already April. Oh my God, it's May. Oh my God, it's July. Holy shit, it's Thanksgiving. Oh my God, it's the next year. And it just goes on. And then you die. Then you're dead. So, yeah. I know that Bubba talked about this a few days ago about the the date with the highest rate or probability of people breaking up with you or relationships ending was December 11th, I believe. I think that was the date. And I feel like it's not uncommon for that sort of shit to kind of arise during the holiday season, which is ironic and sad because it's usually a time of, bonding with your family, hunkering down, especially if you're from maybe a shitty part of the world where it snows often and you can't really go out too much because it's a pain in the ass. So maybe like a place where I used to live, like Detroit. And then I decided to move there in 2012, and that winter was the worst winter they'd seen in 130 years. But then I learned thereafter that it was always the worst winter they had seen since the beginning of time. That was I didn't know that if that was true or not, but I remember them saying that this is the worst winter in terms of length and snowfall that they'd seen in 130 years. And they were throwing around terms like polar vortex. It was the first time that I was introduced to something I was unfamiliar with the concept of negative degree weather. I didn't understand what that meant. I was like, what do you, I mean, I guess it makes sense from a Celsius point of view, 0 is freezing, right? But when you start getting into, negative, even in Fahrenheit, when it's like -10, okay, water freezes at 32, it's -10. Wow, that seems really fucking cold. What do you mean negative degree temperature? It's like a negative distance. It just didn't make sense to me. Wouldn't it just be lower? But I also understand because you have to kind of have it's not infinity. So I understand 0, they have to cut it off, and that's when water freezes. Fine, okay. But I remember going from San Diego for winter break and then returning back to Michigan, and it was like, oh, it's -7. I'm like, I don't even fucking know what that means or feels like. I had 0 reference point. The coldest I had seen it before then was when I would go to fucking Big Bear, and we would go for maybe snow was fun in California because it's unusual. It's novel. You go up to the mountains for a weekend. You see snow. The kids freak the fuck out. Oh, wow. You ski or snowboard, and most of the time it was too hot to do any of that. So they have to put a bunch of fake snow because all the real snow was melting. So we did that a few times. So that was kind of like my only reference point for snow. But that's fun snow. That's like mountain snow, and it was never really that much. So it was always like a treat. It was something different. Getting the kids all bundled up in the blankets and the big jackets, and that was cool. Growing up, we would do that probably annually. Go up to the mountains, Lake Arrowhead, Big Bear. So that was my reference point for cold weather. Way less fun when you can't leave. When you're stuck in it and you have to then go to school or work or whatever, combination of both. In my case, in addition to having internships at radio stations in the middle of fucking 8 Mile, less fun. And it's dirty snow in Detroit. It's dirty. It's gross, Even when you go farther north into the Great White North, into Canada, which I went a few times. I've been to Toronto, I think 3 or 4 times. It was just fucking different. But also the city's better. It was just a better city. It was cleaner. When the snow hit the ground, I felt like it maintained its whiteness. I'm going to stop talking. It was, muddy and dark and stuff in Detroit. It just wasn't a good look. But anyways, going back to the point about this being a time, it's a fun time for the rest of us when things are going neutral good, which I feel like you usually live your life in neutral good. You're idle positive, neutrally, most of the time. I would like to think most people are living most of their life and just kind of I'm cool, which is a great place to be, by the way. That is awesome because you're not, you're not too worked up when something good happens, because you know what comes after something good is usually not a crash, but that's usually what happens. Even on very joyous occasions, like you give birth, what happens? Postpartum depression. You have a wedding. Oh, yeah. You think about it for a fucking year. You plan it. You get your dress and your stuff with the food and the cake and the presents. And then the day after, just like crash, low. You know, you're just like, man, it's over. So much of my mental real estate was wrapped up in this one event, and now it's over, and that's sad. I'm so sad. So, yeah, I feel like relationships a lot of times around this time of the year, you know, we made a joke about not having to get that person a Christmas gift, and maybe that's a part of it. Maybe that's a small sliver of the reason why you break up. But I feel like most of the time it's just a time of reflection. You're like, holy shit, it's that time of year again, and I'm still unhappy. And you start thinking about the following year and how things are going to be different this time around, and maybe you got some New Year's resolutions or whatever it is, but it seems to be around this time that people start getting reflective and they start questioning. They start questioning their life decisions, where they are. You know, usually people around my age, you start going, wow, I'm not getting any younger, and time is moving more quickly, and I'm stuck in this job I don't like with a person I don't really like anymore. Is this the rest of my life, just me dealing with stuff? And usually it's at that point where you go, I gotta live for me, or some shit like that happens. So unfortunately, I was talking with a friend yesterday, and I say unfortunately not because I don't want to talk to my friend, but you know, motherfucker's going through a rough time. He's going through a rough time with his marriage, and you know, I'm not going to disclose too much of the information, but we saw him over when we went to Denver for the wedding, right? I went to a Denver wedding, and this person is not on camera or anything, so you wouldn't have, you know, it wasn't the person who got married. It was a friend that I had met in Australia when I was there about 12, 13 years ago. And he was very kind to me, and his parents were fucking amazing to me. They brought me in like I was their own. I was just this lost Jewish dog, and they adopted me. I felt like, especially towards the end of my trip when I was trying to get out of, it was like a month-to-month thing, but there was probably about 2 weeks where I really didn't have a fucking place to live because I was trying to end my month-to-month, and then I was on my way to Thailand and trying to organize like all my shit and send it back home. So it was a bit of a complicated time, and his parents, without skipping a beat, just took me in. They're just like, stay at our house. You know, our daughter lives with her boyfriend. And I remember there was this really awkward moment where I'm like in the daughter's bed, like living there, and then she just walked in because no one fucking told her. Now, again, she was not living at home, but she walks in and I'm just like in her bed. How odd would that be? It's like I was her older brother's friend, and she sees me there, and I'm just like, oh, hi. And she's like, oh, hi. And I was like, you look surprised. Did no one tell you that I was living here? This is awkward. She was super fucking cool about it. So, you know, he ended up meeting an American chick and staying here. They lived a little bit in Australia, a little bit here. They lived in Brooklyn, which they both fucking hated, and then they found their way to Boulder, Colorado, and they loved it, you know. So, unfortunately, when we went there, it was probably one of the worst days he's ever had. I can only imagine. There was a giant caper, I guess we could call it, with horrific jet ski planning on his part. He was really trying to get me and a bunch of other people on board to like rent a boat or jet ski to go to a lake. And I remember being like, dude, we just like want to see you. We want to see your wife and the kids. He has 2 kids. And like, we just want to have like lunch or something. We just want to keep it real simple. Cause I'm all about fucking simple, you know, especially when you only got a day with someone. You don't want to be doing crazy, you know, orchestrated planning, got to be here at this time, boat dock. It's like, nah, bro. Like we're cool. We just want to see you guys. And he was really adamant about like making memories, and he made memories, but they were bad memories. So he decided to organize this jet ski. It was a fucking nightmare. He wanted to go to this one lake, and unfortunately there was like no parking there. And so Blitz and I were circling around for like 30, 40 minutes, just waiting for someone to leave. There was not one spot. And then on top of that, there was no service. So we couldn't contact them. So it was just a mess. It was a mess. And his wife had a friend who was in town as well. And so we all get there. Finally, we're there. The jet ski's there. And then maybe about 30 minutes after we got there, it started raining pretty bad. So it was just kind of like the cherry on top. And his wife was visibly irritated is not the word. She was very mad. She was very, 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 very mad. And she's I'm not gonna lie, she is a big bitch. Like, she is probably, no joke, she's probably 6'1", 6'2", and she's kind of hefty. So like, when she was getting mad, like I was like, but my only defense is just to run. So I was getting a little scared. There's some people when they got a temper and you just get scared. You just like, you're feeling like just really uneasy about things. That's how I felt like the whole day. But she was like so sweet. But every time that my friend, the guy, was in the water with the jet ski with, Blitz or his daughter or whatever, she and I were talking, and she had some words. She had a lot of words about him, about their future, about his mom that came to visit. And I'm like, oh, goddamn. And she's like, she's from Georgia. She's like, I'm never going back to Australia. I fucking hate that place. I hate his family. They're so rude and la, la, la. And then later that evening, we all go back to their place, and she goes out with her friend, leaves the house, and I'm talking with him. And it's, me, Chris, and him. And he's like, yeah, rightio, like, we're going to go. I can't do the accent well. He's like, yeah, we're planning on moving back to Australia next year. And I'm like looking at Chris, because I think Chris heard the conversation that I had with her earlier. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, oh, really? I'm like, I'm like, do you guys ever like talk? So it was bad. It was really bad. So I spoke with him last night, and it seems like they are in limbo of divorce. It seems like they're both fighting for the relationship, maybe some more than others. And it kind of got me questioning a lot of things about, when do you leave a marriage? And is it okay to leave because you're going through a rough spot? And is it okay to leave if you're unhappy, but you have children? Is it okay? Like, and he even said he's like, my kids, he has two girls. It's like she's like, I have two very sensitive little girls. Like, they need their dad. And I can't, he wouldn't want to, here's the thing. He wouldn't want to be in the States if he was, a divorcee. If he got divorced, he would want to go back to Australia, but she doesn't want to go, and he can't be away from his kids. So he's kind of in this little pickle right now, a giant pickle, about what the protocol is. Like, what do you do? And he's really fighting for it. And I feel like that is the way to go. Obviously, there are boundaries that can't be crossed, at least in my mind, physical violence, or, you put yourself in harm's way, or the kids in harm's way. Like, obviously, you need to create distance there. But if it's just kind of like constant clashing of personalities, I'm always like, hey, especially if you got kids, like, in my opinion, if you got kids and kids are young, like, you fight for it. You really do, I think, in my opinion. But again, if you do all the fighting and you're doing all the right things, and you go to the therapy, and you're doing solo therapy and couples therapy, and you're doing all the things, and that other person is just not meeting you halfway, then, you're really left with no other option. So I was just kind of sitting there listening, and I think people really appreciate that, when you just sit and you listen. And oftentimes you're not going to have a solution to their problem, and maybe they don't even want you to come up and like brainstorm with them. They just want you to be a listening ear, to maybe they want to vent or just explain or complain or whatever the case may be. And that's not always the case. Sometimes people want you to help them problem solve, but most of the time with adults, they're not really looking for that, it seems. They're not, and I know that men and women often have this problem because when women complain about something like their job or a situation with a friend to their husband, the husband immediately starts to like problem solve. And they don't want you to problem solve. They just want you to fucking listen. They just want you to listen. And so because I do this all day, which is talking about myself or whatever, about things, I quite like listening to people's stories. And maybe if you've met me or had a conversation with me, I just like to sit and listen. And I'm not like getting spacey, and I'm not necessarily, I'm not listening. I'm tuned in, obviously, but I really, really enjoy hearing, not enjoy, especially if it's bad news, I'm not enjoying it, but I'm intrigued by people. I'm curious about people. And also if we're good friends, like I want to be there for you. But I find other people fascinating. And honestly, it's kind of nice when I don't have to ask questions. People just offer up information, because then I'm not nosy. Then I'm a good friend. But yeah, 81390 Bubba. Maybe you want to call in and let me know when you know it's right. And is it ever okay to kind of bail on the family? Do you feel like there is a time where you can bail too early? I have a friend in jiu-jitsu. I'm going to keep it real anonymous here. And she just turned 40 like last week. And it's funny because he just turned 40 last week as well. And she's going through a divorce. She's got 2 small kids as well. Same story. And a couple months ago, she told me that her and her husband were separated. And she was kind of like paused as if to be like, what do you think? Like kind of gave me a quick rundown on a 15-year marriage, and then maybe like a 7 or 18-year relationship, and then gave me like what do you think I should do? Like, do you think I should go to counseling? Do you think I should not go to counseling? Do you think I should get divorced? What do you think I should do? And I feel like our culture now is very much like, if you're not happy, fucking bail. Like that, it seems to be that a lot of people think it's almost, at least among women, it seems to be that it's like chic to be divorced almost. Like it's almost like a rite of passage in a lot of ways. At least kind of how it's portrayed online, where you're very removed from anything personal, but you see people like having divorce parties and divorce cakes and a divorced honeymoon, or, like they make it trendy and chic. And, I really don't think that's a good way to look at divorce, because at the end of the day, especially if there's kids involved, you're breaking up a family. It's the end of a family unit, and that's pretty tragic. Mike Thurman. No more annoying he, she. I don't know what that's referring to. I don't know if that's a dig at Seth or what the fuck that is. But thank you for the money, appreciate it. But yeah, so that girl from jiu-jitsu last week, or maybe it was a couple weeks ago, we were literally in the middle of a roll, like actively trying to hurt one another. And she tells me, she's like, Bobby, let's just call him Bobby. Bobby didn't show up for couples counseling yesterday, and then like it was his idea and I paid for it. And I was like, oh. And so she's like, yeah, we're filing for divorce. And I was like, whoa. And then she like took my back or tried to like break my arm or something. But yeah, I spoke to her a little bit more about it, and she was done. She was checked out. But when she did ask me for advice, I said, do everything you can to save the marriage. That's what I said. I'm like, is he hurting you? Like, is he punching you? Is he being like verbally abusive or, physically abusive, sexually abusive? Like, no. Okay. Did he cheat on you? No. Okay. Again, that just because you didn't do those things doesn't mean you're a great husband, but whatever. Those are usually hard lines in the sand where it's like, you cheat on me, it's over. You hit me, it's over. You're verbally abusive constantly, it's over. Okay, fine. So none of those things. Is he an alcoholic? No. Okay, whatever. So he doesn't have like an addiction problem, whatever. And I told her, I'm like, do everything you can to save it. Is what I said. She paid for like 6 months of therapy and did all the things, and he was going to therapy, and they were both going to therapy. I'm like, just finish the 6 months. So at least at the end of that, you can say, I tried. Like that means, at least in my book, that's a lot. Like if you can go to sleep at night knowing you did everything that you could fucking do to save the relationship, to save the marriage, to save the family, and it didn't work fine. It just wasn't meant to be. But if you know, a lot of marriages get intercepted. They get changed, you know. They go through really hard. My grandparents did, I know. Apparently I learned in my late 20s that my grandmother, my dear Bubby, you know, I thought that her relationship with my grandfather was like pretty swell most of the time. No, it fucking wasn't. That bitch, I think during the, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call you that bitch, Bubby. You know I love you, but R.I.P. But I think it was during the Vietnam War, there was a lot of tension in the house, apparently, because you had generational clash between my grandfather, who fought in World War II, was in the Air Force, and my uncle, his son, who was trying to get out of fighting the Vietnam War. You had, you know, the clash of generations where one was like, you fucking fight for your country, because the people who came back from World War II, the veterans of World War II, you know, were revered as heroes. You know, they stopped the Nazis. They stopped Imperial Japan from taking over the world. I mean, yeah, they got a lot of positive cred for that. But then, you know, what, 20 years-ish later, 20 years later, after that war, I think Vietnam started in like, what, 65? 68? Something like that. You have another war that many people regard as a fucking dumb war. And the greatest generation, my grandfather's generation, was like, you fucking go to war for your country. And my uncle was like, yeah, but this is dumb as shit, though. This is different. This isn't World War II, and we're trying to stop, you know, a genocidal maniac by the name of Adolf Hitler on one end. And then on the other end, we got this fucking Imperial Japan trying to take over the world, trying to take over Manchuria, bombing us in Pearl Harbor. Like, we're stopping the bad guys. And unfortunately for Vietnam, we were fighting. It was a fucking dumb ass war. Why are we there? Oh, to stop communism in a country that doesn't really matter. Sorry, Vietnam, but you know, whatever. So, yeah, difference. And my grandmother was so sick and tired of hearing about the fighting at the dinner table every fucking day for years and years and years. She's like, well, I'm leaving. And my grandfather's like, what do you mean? She's like, I booked a ticket to Argentina. I'll see you guys later. And that bitch fucking left for like a month, maybe even longer, 6 weeks. She just went to Buenos Aires. Part of her family's from Argentina, so she just took off. Like, damn, Bubby just fucking up and left. She's like, I'm done with this bullshit. She didn't plan the trip with anybody. She didn't run it by anybody. She just goes, hey, guess what? Lillian is out. Bye. And she fucking booked it to Argentina and left. And things just kind of, they realized that they needed her around and they would stop fighting. And I don't know. Maybe the war ended. I don't even know what year she left, but I'm imagining it was probably the early 70s. But anyways, you know, it's just not it's not easy for anybody, obviously, and everyone will tell you that marriage is hard, that relationships are hard, and they're supposed to be. $10 from Brian from Philly. Thank you so much. He's leaving for Tampa. We'll see you tonight at Bubba 199. Make sure you're there. So anyways, yeah, it's unfortunate that this is like kind of the season of divorce, of reflection. 813-90-BUBBA if you'd like to weigh in on that. And when is the right time to bail? Apparently, it's a thing. I've never been married, but apparently it's a thing when you go to marriage counseling or maybe you have therapy on your own, that the person administering the therapy you go, I don't know if it's the right time to leave. And it seems like it's a consensus. I don't know if they taught you this in therapy school, that they just tell you, you'll know. You'll fucking know. And I'm like, ugh. That's what they told my mom. That's what they told my friend, like fucking 10, 12 years later. So I guess it's just a thing that they know that every person, I guess, has just a breaking point where they're just done. They're just done. They are done. There's no turning back. They're definitive. And that's what I was trying to tell my friend. I said, listen, like, it almost like at least get to that point. Don't do it prematurely. Like, do it to the point where you're like absolutely fucking not, I guess. So I'm in favor of keeping the family together. I think that, you know, when you get married and you have children, there is a duty. And again, I'm saying usually if the kids are small, if the kids are grown, like what the fuck ever. But if the kids are small, they need two parents. They really do. And they need two parents even more when there's not a lot of family around. If grandpa and grandma are around, it makes it a little bit easier, where they can help mom out, help dad out, whatever. But if it's just you and the kids, man, that is a really challenging situation, especially in my friend's case, my Aussie friend's case, where he's like, I'm either married here or I'm going back to Australia. And obviously she's not. So then you have kind of like I think Joe Jonas was going through this. It's kind of loosely following that, where he got divorced from his wife and she took the kids. They went to the UK and she won't come back. So not good stuff. But we can transition to something a little bit more positive, I guess. Happiness. Something that I didn't know I was really that interested in until I listened to this podcast. Again, it is, I don't know what number it is, but if you look at Peter Attia, Arthur Brooks, The Drive, it'll pop up. It's about, I think it's 2 hours and 6 minutes. But just talked about a lot of the components of happiness. And what the good news is that you are in the driver's seat when it comes to your own happiness. A lot of people think it's just the cards that you're given, right? And it's like when a bunch of good things happen to you, you're just happy all the time. Everything's great. You're really lucky. And unfortunately, there's other people who don't have that great of a deck and they just have to deal with what they have. And those are unhappy people. But it's really not like that at all. And I think most of us know that it's a lot of it is about perspective, And so what I've been doing lately, which kind of brings me back down to earth, grounds you, like, honestly, perspective is probably the greatest gift that you could give yourself in terms of happiness or trying to cultivate happiness is, like, for example, you're going through an issue at work or with your significant other, or even you're having financial problems, which can be extremely stressful. I get it. I know. But if you can zoom out for just a second, and I've been talking to a lot of friends, like old friends this last week. And whenever they talk about their problems, I'm like, stop, pause, hold there. I'm like, zoom out. Look around. What's going on in the world right now? We got Hamas. We got Yemen. We got the Uyghurs, genocide. We got Ukraine. We got terrorist attacks. We got poverty. We got AIDS. We got all of these things. Mike Thurman, $9.99. Apparently he's not a fan of Seth. You got all those things. Think about all those horrific problems. You got cholera and starvation and just people dying by the millions in Yemen. You have Syria. You have Ukraine. You have, like, Russia. What if you were just like a young 18-year-old Russian? You don't want to go to fucking war and you're just getting decimated. You got, obviously, the situation in Gaza, being a Palestinian kid in this mess. Like, fuck. Or you were living in a kibbutz that most of the people around you were either taken hostage or murdered in front of your face. And you're considered a lucky one if you survive, but now you're left with these fucking horrific scars, physical and emotional, that you'll never be able to fully get over or get rid of. Like, you think about all those problems. Now, zoom, boom, back into your problem. Wow. Yeah, I'll fucking take my problems all day long. Thank you so much. We're so lucky to, like, how blessed, in quotes, how blessed we are to have the problems that we have when we think about, I had to fucking traffic, and then I have to do the laundry, and then I have to take care of the kids who are totally healthy but fucking annoying, and then I have to do, we know our day-to-day kind of things that we were like, oh, fuck, I have to, or even like your car gets towed. Fucking get it. So annoying. But, like, was your family murdered? No. And so that sort of stuff I do on the regular where I'm like, okay, zoom out. All right. I start thinking about all the current events, things going on, horrific things that you read in, like, I don't know, horror novels or horror movies you see. And then zoom back in and you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm good. I'm fucking doing real good. And boom, just with that perspective shift, you automatically feel better. Your mood shifts and you feel Just a few minutes ago, you were in a state of anger, annoyance, maybe fear, anxiety, and then all of a sudden, nothing has really changed but your perspective, and now you're in a state of gratitude. And gratitude and anger really cannot coexist together. Like, you can't be really grateful for something and angry at the same time. Like, you just your brain can really only handle one of those emotions at a time. So that is just something like a little tool. Not even something they talked about in the podcast, really, but just about how happiness is in your control completely. Not completely. I mean, things are gonna get thrown at you, of course, but I learned that there's like 3 major components of happiness. Like, I didn't even think about that. And I was like, what are these components of happiness? The macronutrients is what Dr. Arthur Brooks talks about, the macronutrients of happiness. And I was like, okay, this is going to be some like lame, like woo-woo stuff. Like, and he's like, their enjoyment, satisfaction, and meaning. And I was like, enjoyment, satisfaction. I'm like, isn't that like the same shit? Like, I'm like, whatever. Totally not the same shit. So enjoyment, as he defines it, is pleasure, but plus memories with other people. Like, you're making memories with other people. That is what enjoyment is. So he's like, for example, drinking alone versus drinking at a holiday party with friends, right? One is sad, where it's just you drinking. You're really not creating any memories, and you're not with other people. You're just kind of hedonistically either coping, or maybe you have a problem, I don't know, versus like drinking with friends. It goes from having a problem, being hedonistic, to being like a joyous occasion. That's enjoyment, is things that involve pleasure with other people, making memories. That's area 1. Area 2 is satisfaction. I was like, well, isn't that kind of like you're satisfied, you're happy? No, that is enjoyment plus suffering. So if you really struggled for something and then you get whatever, for example, jujitsu, I would say that satisfaction is probably the thing that aligns most with that, where you struggle really hard and you get that submission, or you struggle really hard because you worked really hard and you get that bonus, or you struggled really hard and whatever, you ran the 10K. I don't know. That feeling when you've accomplished that after a struggle is satisfaction. And then meaning, obviously, is like the why questions. Why am I here? What is my purpose? What is my purpose, which is, I feel like I'm not explaining well, but what the meaning, why are you here, essentially? Or like, why do you feel like you're here? A lot of people who might be religious, think that they're here for God's whatever purpose, the mission, to spread the gospel, to be a wife, to be a husband, to spread their seed, to whatever, in God's image. Who knows? And it was cool because they also talked about, okay, well, what about for all the atheists that are listening? I'm like raising my hand and like, how do those people find meaning? And usually it's through some sort of service work, right? I feel like Bubba probably aligns his meaning with being an entertainer, bringing joy to other people, making people laugh. Like, that's why he feels like he was put on this earth, even if you don't believe in God, per se. So, feel free to call in 813-90-BUBBA. I would highly recommend this podcast. It was awesome. I immediately sent it to my dad, and I sent it to Kevin Hazelin and a bunch of other people. And I was like, because most of the time the shit I'm watching is, I find it inherently interesting. I'm watching stuff about, I don't know, metabolism in some capacity, working out, the science behind exercise, nutrition, whatever. History, big fan of just fucking history in general. Current events, what's going on in Israel, like that's my sort of thing. But and this guy was giving a lot of like actionable tips and steps to live a happier life, which I feel like is everyone's number one goal. Like, you talk to anybody, it's like, well, what is your goal? It's like to be happy. It's like, yeah. But he also kind of gave some good news that you're really not designed to be happy. Like, your brain isn't designed to be happy. So then when you're not happy, it's not like anything is wrong. It's totally supposed to be that way. Your brain is designed to keep you alive and to push you in the direction of reproducing. That is what your brain is trying to do. is to keep you survive and reproduce. That's it. So it doesn't really care. Natural selection doesn't really care if you're happy. You know, all your emotions are just trying to guide behavior, right? So you're angry, you want to rectify something that, you know, someone did to you. You're fearful, you get out of the way of the lion that's trying to eat you, or maybe in this case, the Tesla that went rogue, whatever the case may be. Disgust is another major emotion where it's like, yeah, you're not supposed to eat shit, literally. Or, you know, you see something in the back of your fridge that's been sitting there for a few weeks. You're not supposed to eat it. You're like, oh, God. Or maybe you look in the mirror and you're like, that's disgusting. I need to change. What was the other? There was like 4 negative emotions and 2 positive emotions. So fear, anger, disgust. Forgot the 4th one. And then the 2 positive emotions were, what did he say? Joy and interest. Like those were the 2 positive ones. And again, there's like more like nuanced emotions, but I think like those were like the 6 major ones. I can't remember the last one of the negative, but anyways, it'll come to me. But anyways, yeah, so he was like, these emotions are just supposed to guide behavior. You know, when you feel a good emotion or something good, your brain is telling your body like more of this behavior. And then with negative emotion, it's trying to redirect. Like you're angry, we need to go in this direction. You're fearful, we need to go in this direction. It's disgusting, we need to move in this direction. So that's all that is. And part of like my next step, and if I were to assign any sort of New Year's resolution, it's not really a resolution. It's just, I don't like to think about it like I need to wait to start, because that seems lame. I feel like I won't do it then. But I think my goal for the future is just to practice a bit more of like the mindfulness, you know? So when you're overwhelmed by an emotion, you could just go, okay, this is totally normal. My brain is just telling me that I'm feeling anxious and it'll pass, you know, versus like being highly reactive to it. So another one of his messages, him being Dr. Arthur Brooks, was like, you want to try to get the emotions out of the limbic system and in the prefrontal cortex, where you have a lot more executive control. Because in the limbic system, it's like your lizard brain. It's like you're highly reactive when you're just like, I'm angry, and then you just react. Whereas if you feel the anger, you don't put it on pause, but you just kind of sit there, you let it process, and you start to think about, you know, like, okay, this is a totally normal reaction. I'm feeling angry right now, and I'm going to think about this and problem solve and try to let cooler heads prevail so that I can execute this in a way where I'm not going to like fuck something up in the future, right? Because there's a lot of times when you feel hot, you're red hot, and you're really reactive, and you either, you know, you say something you don't mean, maybe to a spouse, maybe to a friend, maybe to your kid, and those sorts of things like affect them and they remember them. And you certainly don't want to put scars on the people that you love the most because you were unable to control your emotions. So, and it's something that men and women struggle with, I think, equally. You know, they always say that, you know, women are far more emotional than men. I don't know if that's necessarily true, because I would then ask, like, well, what emotion are we talking about? Like, is it they are like more neurotic or irritable? Sure. Do they get upset? Do they get like sad, I guess, quicker, take things more personally? Perhaps, sure. But as far as like anger is also an emotion. And when we look at like all the violent acts that are perpetrated by humankind, most of them, the violent ones, are perpetrated by men who just don't have that sort of impulse control. So they just kind of let their anger get the best of them, and that happens a lot. So I think everyone could benefit from trying to get a better grip on their emotions and how they're executed. Hello, who's this?
What's up? It's Pedro.
Pedro, did you ever get the green light, or what's going on?
Yeah, it looks like I'm tagging along with Crack Chris.
Woo! How old are you today?
I'm pretty excited. 46, honey.
46, honey.
Yeah, man.
Honey baby. Cool.
My little ray of sunshine.
Now, let me ask you this. As someone who has a birthday in December that's pretty close to the holidays, It fucking sucks, right? Because I would hate to have a birthday around now.
It's annoying. It's annoying as hell, actually.
Yeah, because no one remembers. It's always in the way. You know, you get. I'm sure you got a lot of this as a kid. Here's your birthday and Christmas gift. Like that
exactly.
sucks.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I always got screwed in the holidays, but my wife and I decided last year when the shit was really hitting the fan financially that we're moving my birthday to June 15th because there's nothing going on. All of our kids' birthdays are very close to the holidays and after the new year and stuff, and it just really started fucking pissing me off.
Yeah.
So she's like, fuck it. So,
yeah. It's bad. I would say that even though December 15th is pretty bad, I would probably say if I were to pick like one of the worst times to have a birthday, it would be like January 2nd, January 3rd. Like that sucks, you know, because everyone is like exhausted. They're all going back to work. They're all fat from the holidays. They don't want to party with you. They've been partying for the last 2 weeks. And then your birthday just creeps up on them like that. It seems rude. So at least yours is before Christmas. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But I get it. It's a shitty time to have a birthday.
Hey, so in your podcast that you're listening to, my wife and I are very different people. I mean, we get along great, but I'm a consummate positive person because, you know, when I lost my job in 2008, well, I started a business and I was successful until I sold it. And then when I hated my job a little over a year and a half ago, I worked to become an insurance adjuster and I got the job that I wanted.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's what I've been doing over a year. And she's always negative. Is there anything that was said about getting a negative person to be more fucking positive?
I mean, what kind of communication have you had with your wife about
we talk about it all the time. I give her shit all the time. I mean, as a relationship and, you know, as a marriage, we're great. But when something goes wrong, it's like, I'm like, okay, let's see how we can work through it. And she's like, the fucking world's going to end. I'm like, no, okay, hold on. Chill out.
Yeah.
It's kind of become more humorous than, you know, making me mad. It's more like...
Right. Well, I mean, it sounds like it's not really a problem, but let's just say that it was.
It's annoying.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, you can't really change people unless they want to change. I mean, if they don't see a problem with their behavior, then you just go, okay, well, do I walk away from this or do I just like kind of deal with it? But yeah, there's really, you can't, yeah, I mean, you can't, it sounds like it's not a deal breaker. It doesn't sound like it's that big of a deal. And the closest, you know, the thing that you could do the most is to try to introduce her to people kind of like a podcast that you listen to that you go like, this is really good perspective and this person might get something out of it. If they're that type of person that has a growth mindset, to me, that's probably one of the most important things in a partner, to have a growth mindset and not to be just like so fucking stuck in their ways that they're unwilling to kind of see that there are improvements that could be made or ways that things could be better if they would change their behavior and attitude. So does she have a growth mindset? Like, does she have a, you know, is she willing to try new things? That's a good indication that someone has a growth mindset, that they are interested in trying new things.
Yeah, she's led a very different life than I have. I've tried just about everything under the sun, except a three-way with another guy. So
I really wasn't talking about anything sexual, but I'm glad that it went there. I'm glad it went there.
No, I'm just saying, you know, I'm always like, okay, well, hey, let me try something different, you know. So she's been at the same job for 25 years, and now that she's close to retiring, you know, it's like, okay, well, what do you want to do next? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, well, you know, we're still young, so let's figure something else out to do.
Yeah.
You know, and that's terrifying to her. For me, it was like, okay, well, I don't want to own my business. I hate what I do, and I'm, you know, injured because I really injured my hand. I really couldn't work what I was doing.
Yeah.
And now I was like, okay, what do I do next? I'm like, well, let's try and do this.
Right.
Try that, you know. So it's, I don't know. Like I say, we're very different in that respect because I'm just like, fuck it. I don't like what I'm doing. Change. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I get that. And honestly, another thing I learned from that podcast was that compatibility isn't really that important. And I was like, what the fuck does that even mean? And I was like, I thought compatibility was everything, but he was talking about being more complementary, is what he said. Because he said once you kind of get back through the basic stuff, like, okay, you're the same religion and, you know, maybe race or ethnicity, so you culturally are the same. Once you get past that and we talk more about like personality traits, it's really important to have like almost the opposite of yourself. Because if you have, say, for example, two really extroverted people, that can kind of be problematic because they're just kind of go to blows with one another, right? They're going to be competing with each other for attention, for accolades, for acknowledgement. And if you have two like highly introverted people together, that, you know, they don't really interact with one another, and then they kind of get cold and distant and kind of grow apart, which is why like usually an introvert and an extrovert kind of pair well together. So stuff like that, where he was like, it's not compatibility, it's more complementariness, if that's even a word, where you want to have someone who's like high in extroversion and someone who's a little bit more introverted. Like those two people like seem to pair well together. So. But anyway, it sounds like you're doing it right.
Touch base and ask your perspective and see what you got out of that thing.
Thank you. I appreciate you calling in. Say it again.
What's the name of that podcast?
It's called The Drive, but it was a recent podcast, probably within the last 2 weeks. It's called fuck, I don't know where my phone is. Well, anyways, it's if you look up Peter Attia happiness, it'll pop up. Attia, Attia. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, cool.
See you tonight. Bye. 813-90 Bubba if you'd like to call in and contribute to the conversation. I am a little bummed about the weather, you know, and it's not because I'm afraid, I'm scared. It's none of that. It's because tomorrow was going to be, or is, I don't know if they're rescheduling it, probably not, the Gracie Tampa South holiday party. And initially, and we also have our belt ceremony tomorrow. So we have the belt ceremony in the afternoon, and then it's a double header. And then a few hours later, it's the holiday party. And I was really excited because I was going to bake some brownies, and then I was going to go home and then go back out to Tampa to, I won't say where, but a bar in Tampa. And initially I was like, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to make the party. It's hard to do a double header. And then Matt Arroyo said, there'll be an open bar with free food. And I said, okay, well, clearly I'm going. So I was very excited to go to, you know, you're stoked. Everyone's been working really hard this year. You get your stripe, maybe you get your belt, a new belt, you know, different color belt. And that is during the afternoon. There'll be a big potluck. And then a few hours later, we are all planning on going to this bar. And I didn't go last year because, for those that remember, I fucked up my knee. Well, I didn't fuck up my knee. Someone fucked my knee up for me, but, you know, we're friends now. It's all good. And so I was really embarrassed because I didn't want to go and get an award or like a stripe, and I hadn't gone for 3 months. So I told everyone I was in California, which was not entirely true because I didn't leave for California for a few more days, but I was like, oh, I'm in Cali. So everyone was like messaging me like, oh, you know, wish you were here, blah, blah. No, not everyone, like maybe one person was like, oh, you know, miss you, wish you were here. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm fucking in Cali. It's like, bitch, I'm in St. Pete. I'm still here, motherfucker. I'm scared. I don't want to go. So I didn't go to the holiday party or the belt ceremony last year. And the year before was super fun. So that was cool. But this year I was like, fuck yeah, I'm feeling good, not injured, knock on all the wood, and been working hard, been going to class. So I was going to go get the stripe and then party with everybody afterwards. And unfortunately, I just don't think that's going to happen. As much as I would like to go, I don't want to swim there, and it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. So that was a little bit of a bummer. So it was kind of a little sad when we were talking about the storm, and it was like, yeah, it's going to pick up Saturday evening right around 7 p.m. And I'm like, perfect. Yes, queen. Awesome. Fine. And we'll close with this, which is also very, very, very important news. Kanye West is coming out with a new album, and it drops today. It's called Vultures, I believe. Oh, is that the song or the album? It is a dual album that he did with Ty Dolla $ign, I want to say. And I believe it drops. Oh, hold on. Stand by. Yeah. Kanye West has apparently announced that his new joint album with Ty Dolla $ign will be released Friday, December 15th, marking his return to music after a string of wildly publicized controversies. It's called Vultures, and it's coming out this Friday. Ty Dolla $ign also announced that a listening party would be held on. Okay, that's great. We saw that. He was dressed in, Kanye West was dressed in a black hood. Looked kind of like he was maybe part of the KKK, but instead of a white hood, it was a black one. Interesting flex. You know, it's hard with people who are like so like avant-garde with their fashion, because, you know, Ye is obviously into fashion, the Ye Yeezys, shoes, maybe he has some clothes, whatever. And sometimes with people who are like really high fashion, you just like, sometimes I'm like, okay, I just don't understand it. You know, I'm sure we've all seen pictures of like those runway models that are wearing like, I don't know, like a fucking cardboard box down the runway, and you're just like, odd, but it's like they're in Milan or in Paris, and it's just like, okay, I just don't fucking get it. Like, there's at a certain point where clothes get so fucking weird that you're like, oh, it's art now. It's art. You know, I maybe go to shopping at Old Navy, but you don't see Old Navy on the runways in Paris and Milan and Florence, and I don't know where all the fuck high fashion exists, but you know, it's weird. It's like it goes from being just like a necessity, an essential thing, we need to clothe ourselves, to being like, oh, nice clothes, oh, nice dress, and then it's like fucking art. And when it gets into the art, it's just weird. Like, no one wears that in real life, it seems. It, you know, where there's maybe a lot of like nudity, or they're wearing a shirt that's completely sheer, but they have, I don't know, like a kiwi cut and on their titties. I don't know. It's fucking weird shit. So maybe I just don't get it. But he was wearing like a KKK hood, but in black. He's like, I'll take that, but in black, please. Thank you so much. You know, it does. You can't see it get dirty as well. You know, it keeps better maybe. I don't know. But he was fully hooded during this listening party. And apparently West, 46, previously debuted the title track during a surprise performance at Dubai nightclub Blue, where it emerged that the song included West rapping the following lyrics, which is, quote, "How am I anti-Semitic? I just fucked a Jewish bitch." Which, you know, Blitz has been saying that for a few years now, but that's a fair point. Who is this Jewish bitch that he's been fucking? I would like to know. You know, is this kind of the equivalent of, how could I be racist? I have black friends. How am I anti-Semitic? I just fucked a Jewish bitch. I mean, it pretty much follows the same logic, kind of, I would suggest, I think. But I hate to say this, like, I'm a big fan of Kanye West's music, you know? And it sometimes it's hard to kind of decipher between the musician, the artist, and the music, you know, the person and the product. Like, I will always be a Chris Brown fan. I know I've had this argument. I feel like it's one of the most controversial things I've ever said, is that Chris Brown is more talented than Michael Jackson. I mean, people get up in arms. Bubba gets very angry. It's like up there with me and what I think about circumcision. You know, we're not going to get into that, but that sort of thing where it riles people up. They're like, what the fuck do you mean? And in my estimation, it's like, just because you're more popular doesn't mean you're more talented. Like, yeah, Michael Jackson was an icon for many reasons, and he was very talented, but I feel like, was he, or are we just told, like, when you were, like, when I was a kid, my mom was like, Michael Jackson is the greatest performer of all time. Like, that was just a thing. Like, he was the greatest ever. And then you're just like, he's the greatest ever. And it's like this emotional attachment to the general ethos of something that maybe necessarily isn't true. But just because you're told that from a young age, you're like, oh yeah, he's the greatest ever. He was the greatest performer ever. It's like, okay, yeah. Then the fucking kids thing happened, which doesn't take away from you being a good performer. It adds more to the story, certainly, because you're like, wow, you were like a level 4 interesting. Now you're like a level 9.5 interesting. It really kind of bumps up your intrigue. It's like, okay, so he's a famous person. Okay, but he's a famous person that was fucking kids for 30 years. Oh, wow. Let's make a documentary about it. That was fucked up. I don't know if you guys saw Surviving Neverland. I think that's what it's called. But yeah. Yeah. And I think it detailed Wade Robson and some other guy, I think named Brian, who had a sexual, I don't want to make it sound like it was consensual. It was like an abusive sexual relationship for the better part of like a decade for both of these young boys at the time. And I think that most of us remember if we saw this documentary, which I think was a two-part series, maybe 3, I can't remember. But there was a part where one of the boys was like, Michael Jackson made me stand up and I had to like bend over and show him my booty hole and he like licked it or something. It was like some fucked up shit where like, it's funny because like in America, things are pretty open. It's not like Saudi Arabia where everyone is clutching their hijabs. Like, oh my God, it's pretty open society, especially when you roll in the same circles as I do, where like it's hard to offend you or shock you, or maybe you've been a fan of stand-up comedy since you were a kid like me, and you like the dirty comedy. You like when people are talking about the sex and the drugs and the fucking whores or whatever. Like you're not a prude when it comes to people talking about outrageous shit. But every once in a while, I'm sure this happens to us, where even you are like, whoa, what the fuck? Like that's fucked up shit. And that certainly happened. Like I definitely had that moment where I'm like, that is shocking. That is shocking. I'm not comparing it to the Hamas attacks, but when you're like, people are violent, we know people are violent, and then like Hamas rolls in and did some like fucking like fucked up shit, you're like, whoa, I didn't know that was possible. Like it was that kind of like reaction. I mean, obviously not the same, but you understand just the shock value. Where I was watching this at my friend's house, and all of a sudden this guy's just like openly talking about how Michael Jackson like licked his asshole when he was like 11. I'm like, whoa, where was your mom? Where was your mom when you were having sleepovers every night with Michael Jackson in his treehouse, eating cookies and drinking hot chocolate? That didn't raise a red flag in mommy's head. But again, I guess they were kind of blinded by the fact that he was a international celebrity. So, I want to give these parents a benefit of the doubt, but also like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Grow up. Listen, everyone gets starstruck. Everyone's like, wow, that's cool. But at the end of the day, a celebrity is just a human being. And maybe you shouldn't allow your young child to be alone with a human being when they're having sleepovers in the same, it's just, yeah, it's just mind-boggling, the fact that didn't raise any red flags. Like, should you be a parent? Are you missing a gene where you don't, certain things should be like, woo, woo, like an alarm bell going off, and it's just not. And you just think that and again, I don't want to blame the women, but that seems like a single mom move where you're just like, yeah, sure, whatever. I feel like dad would be like, wait, what's going on? You're letting our son sleep in a grown man's bed alone for days at a time. I feel like something odd might be going on. And it's not like fucking kids is anything new. It's not like, oh my God, that wasn't happening in the 80s. It's like, yeah, that shit has been happening for a long time where people were fucking kids that shouldn't have been fucking kids. So that was probably the most infuriating part. It was just like, what the fuck? And like, listen, I'm not a parent, so it's like, who are you to judge? It's like, okay, I've heard that argument before, but shut the fuck up. Like, I'm also a human being with a brain that works. So I feel like if I had a child and, all right, like, I'll even give the moms a pass on the first time, but But also then you would say, well, Anna, it's not like the kids are telling their moms that they're getting raped, you know? And unfortunately, when you're that young, like 6, 7, 8, you don't even know, like everything is normal. Like everything is normal. If it happens to you, it's normal because you don't know any different. I hear this all the time from people where they're just like, oh, yeah, I thought, I know people who were abused as kids, right? Physically abused by their father. And they're like, I just didn't know it was supposed to be anything. I thought that's just what dads do is they just bang your head into the garage door. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that's how, and I'm sure we all can recall like, oh, yeah, I just thought I've told the story about my fucking hairy knees where I had fucking a girl tell me in middle school that I should shave my legs, and I went to my mom and I was like, I need to start shaving my legs, and my mom straight up told me that you shave knees and below, you don't shave above or on your knees. So I rolled back at school with fucking really smooth calves and shins, but fucking a dark black fringe on my knees. And when I was approached by a friend of mine who looked at my legs and went, what the fuck is going on here? And she said, why didn't you shave your legs? I go, I did. Can you see this? And she goes, yeah, but you didn't shave your knees. And I, with all of the confidence of, what my mother had told me, I go, you're not supposed to shave your knees. Like, it was just everyone is supposed to have hair on their knees. You just don't do that. Like, it's just a cultural thing. You just don't do that. And then she's like, you're and you need to go back to the drawing board. And I went back to my mom and I cried. And I was like, you are supposed to shave your knees, bitch. Why the fuck did you tell me otherwise? But as a kid, it's just, you don't know. So whatever is in front of you is normal. Like with, no, that's a bad example. But so I suppose everything, including sexual assault, is just fucking normal. You're just like, oh, it's just how it is. It's not completely outrageous for me to share a bed as an 8-year-old boy with a 45-year-old man or a 35-year-old man. That's totally normal. So unfortunately, that fucks with your head. Because then you're not alarm bells should be going off on your head, but they're not because you're just a dumb kid that doesn't know anything. So they know that as the adult, obviously. So they're just like, oh yeah, it's totally normal. It happens all the time. But it doesn't. It's not normal. It's not okay. But kids don't know that. So, anyways, still like his music though. Can't. Thriller was a fucking phenomenal album and one of the only good things to come out of the 80s. And I will say right here, I still really like R. Kelly's music. R. Kelly, unfortunately, he was a demon from hell, but he was oddly blessed with the voice of an angel. He has, have you listened to I Believe I Can Fly? That shit moves mountains, okay? That was one of the most influential songs, I think, probably of the 90s. Space Jam, I Believe I Can Fly, Michael Jordan, it just all meshes together, Yeah, R. Kelly was the shit. It remixed to Ignition. Bounce, 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 bounce. Come on. That's not like Murder, She Wrote. Everybody likes that song. It's a good ass song. It's a great song, actually. But, you don't really hear people playing it on the radio anymore because R. Kelly got a bad rap. Which is odd, though, because I still hear Michael Jackson's music. When I've been listening to 101.5 The Vibe, you know what I mean? With Ricky Smiley in the morning. And they still play a lot of Michael Jackson. So Michael Jackson's still okay. You can still fuck kids. That's fine. But, if you have, you're okay. All right. He was a rapist. Okay. R. Kelly was a rapist. Can't do that. Can't do that. But if you want to fuck a little kid, maybe it was because he was he courted them. I don't know. Maybe people. It is weird though, the discrepancy where maybe because Michael Jackson died of a free and innocent man. I don't know. But it just seems like people they're like, yeah, he was fucking kids, whatever. The family still denies it. I don't think anybody in R. Kelly's camp except R. Kelly denies it. We could ask Aaliyah, but she's also dead. So awkward. But yeah, it's weird the certain things that our society seems to forgive. But and no one forgets. Like everyone like knows. Like Michael Jackson is known for like A, the music, B, the like trans race thing where he like vitiligoed himself into a white person, and then also the kids. That I feel like is his legacy. Like music, black guy that turned into a white guy, fucking kids. That is the legacy of Michael Jackson. R. Kelly, I feel like, you know, he's known as a rapist. And like my favorite artist, maybe my favorite artist of all time, that's I'm willing to even say that in terms of just songs that they produce that I like consistently over the last 15 years, Chris Brown. Like, it's Chris Brown and Drake, 1 and 2, okay? And yeah, I like my EDM, I like my shit, but like, Drake has dropped some phenomenal albums, so has Chris Brown. Chris Brown is just like a machine when it comes to making music. And most people are like, oh, you don't even know, it fucking sucks. Okay, fine, that's fine. But I like his music, and I like it a lot, and it is sometimes hard to get people on board because they're like, oh yeah, but he did a little slap action on Rihanna. I'm like, do you know the story? It's never okay to hit a woman. Honestly, when I heard his side of the story, which may or may not be true, I probably would have hit her too. Okay? I would have smacked that bitch so hard in the face. I remember watching this documentary on Chris Brown and his life and everything, including the good, the bad, the ugly. And he was talking about, again, this is his side of the story, so I take that with a grain of salt. I don't know if it's necessarily true or not. But apparently, I think this was in 2007, maybe? It was a bad year for a lot of people. Britney Spears was one of them. Chris Brown and Rihanna, I guess, were in a car. They apparently had a very kind of a tumultuous and violent relationship. I don't think Chris Brown had a father growing up, and I don't know if Rihanna did. And also, Rihanna seems just to be like a crazy fucking bitch. Crazy. And then you pump these people full of like fame and money at 17, 18, 19 years old. Like there's no way that they can come out of that okay and well adjusted. It's just not going to happen. So they were in the car together, and I think they had just gotten, like, they'd come from a party, and there was a girl that said hi to Chris Brown, and Rihanna was like, who the fuck is that? And it was someone that he had a relationship with like prior to her or something. And he had denied that there was any relationship at all. But then it came out, yeah, I did. But like, I didn't cheat on you. I just, I didn't want to create a problem publicly. So, whatever. Yeah, I had sex with her, but it was before we were even a thing. Whatever. So they get into the car, they're driving along. And this is back in like 2007. I think iPods were a thing, but like, I don't know, like not really. They weren't great and whatever. So whenever you like recorded music, you did it on a CD. And he had like a demo of like a CD with like a bunch of songs that he had just written or produced. And it was the only copy. Again, this is what he said. And I want to believe him desperately. But he said it was the only fucking copy. And it was like in his car. And she... they were like, she was punching him and hitting him, and she then takes the CD that there's only one copy of, and she starts fucking scratching it like with her keys. So he's driving, and she's there, and she's scratching the CD that there's only one of, and it's like got a bunch of songs that are going to be on his next album that he's been working very, very hard on. Okay, and I think at this point he's like 17 or 18, and so I think he pulls over, or while he's driving, I think he slips and punches her right in the fucking face because it was the only copy he had of this new CD. So he punches her in the fucking face, which not great, not good. And then I think they pulled over, and then she took his keys out of the car and like threw them out somewhere. And then she, I guess, got picked up by a cab or something. And then that's when all like the pictures of her busted up face came out and stuff like that. So again, not good. You should never hit a woman. But also, she hit him first. Again, according to his side of the story. And then started scratching his CD. of his new album, and it was the only copy that he had. Is that a little bit of a stretch to believe? Maybe.